Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dene, your family law and wellness needs. I am Dene Matthews. I am an attorney, a mother, a wife, and the owner of the Dunn Matthews Law Firm, a boutique family law firm in Metro Atlanta, where we focus on divorce, custody, child support, all the things family law. And I started this series and podcast as a way to enlighten, encourage, and empower individuals around the world who are alike in some form or fashion as they go through the daily task of life, as well as the family law matters that may intertwine in that time frame and space. And so today on this episode, we are going to have Chasity Wells. Chasity is an insurance agent and author. Her insurance business, Protecting Families LLC, has been open since approximately 2011. And during that time, she's helped numerous families begin their journey to self and family protection. Chasity is committed to protecting lives and legacies. And along the way, as a business owner herself, Chasity developed a passion to teach women in professional services how to effectively use social media to market their businesses. And so she has a wealth of knowledge. And so we are very thrilled to have her here with us today to share with you. And welcome, Chasity.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dene. So, since this is our first time, I want to make sure we don't have feedback in the wrong place. How do I sound on your side?
You sound great.
Okay, awesome. So I'll just listen to the audio through my phone, through Instagram, and not through the web.
Okay.
Okay, just so it's clear. But thank you so much, Dene, for having me. Thank you so much for an amazing introduction.
You are welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm excited to have you today. Let me
I
kind of
can't
put
hear
that over
you now.
there.
Hold on. Let me see how we doing this. Thank y'all for y'all patience. We trying to figure out how to do live on both right now. This is
You
fun.
should be able to hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, tell our audience and viewers just a little bit about like who you are, why you do what you do. I know I gave a little brief introduction about all of that, but kind of something different that I did not bring up. Give them a little bit more information about yourself.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to do that. So I'm actually, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, relocated to Columbus, Ohio after a divorce. And I was actually working at AT&T for some time. Never really saw myself moving into the insurance industry until after I moved to Columbus, Ohio. At that time, ran into some other people, and I was a single mother at the time, and it just kind of made sense to move into insurance. Went into insurance, was working at a captive company, which means that I was only able to sell that one company's product. And I knew that there was other ways to be able to protect families because, um, I really wanted to be able to full service people, right? So what I ended up doing was I branched out on my own. I opened up my own agency in Columbus, Ohio, was able to successfully train many agents, and some of which who are still in the industry. I had an amazing time doing that. Had a lot of pitfalls as well. And then I decided to move myself down to Atlanta, Georgia. And one of the biggest reasons that I've actually stayed in the business, despite all the pitfalls that I've ever had, is again, there is a lot of, or there is not as much representation of people of color, especially young people of color in my industry. So a lot of times I go to events and I'm truly the only younger woman of color that is there. The only other people that are of color there, he's normally a man that's about 90 years old. And I do not feel like that person represents my demographic, people that are my age or even 65 and below, right? Because he's like 90 years old. So no disrespect or anything. I appreciate the way that they paved it. But, I'm just like, the only way other families will understand how to actually protect their families, you have to have a familiar face. You have to have someone else that you actually do relate to. So that's been my stick and stay, honestly, Dene, in this industry, because there are a lot of pitfalls in business. You know that, being in business yourself, it sounds good when you begin, but building your book of business, still paying bills, still being somebody's mama, still being somebody's woman, you like, Lord. So that's been my stick and stay, honestly, is just making sure families are protected and just taking my time, because one of my biggest things is that from my own family and my own testimony is like my grandmother, when she passed away of cancer, in 1999, my grandmother had a policy, right? My grandmother had a life insurance policy. We were able to properly bury my grandmother. Beautiful funeral, all of that, everything she wanted, right? But then my grandfather, my favorite person in my family that I absolutely adored, my grandfather had got hosed, Dene. He was hosed. My grandfather had not a great policy at all. And it just paid out what he had put into it. So that's when I learned the difference between an actual benefit that paid out versus a benefit that is what we call graded, or it pays out a little bit later. So all of those things are things that I really am passionate about, and making sure everyone in our community do understand the difference in.
Yeah, and I completely get that. And totally understand.
I'm not able to hear you, beautiful.
No? On which platform?
I'm trying to make sure I can see myself good on here too.
You can't hear me on the computer?
Still nothing for me. If y'all can hear it, somebody say something, because maybe it's just me.
Okay. Let's see. All right. It says it's picking up my audio. No?
I don't know why it's not acting right. Maybe I need to unmute
now.
All right, try now, Dené.
Are you trying to hear me on the phone or on the computer?
Phone. I mean, yep, on the phone, but I got the computer on now.
Okay, so you can hear me?
Yes.
On the computer?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, all right. So, just to kind of recap on kind of what you just said, I kind of the audio thing just threw me off a little bit.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. Just to kind of recap on what you said and all of that, and I think that's something that kind of is prevalent all over the place, right? Like people think that they have the right policies in place, and then their family members find out that they don't, or people don't have policies in place at all.
Right.
And then their families have to kind of like struggle just to be able to make sure that they are able to bury them and have them be secure, right, as a family, and
a
be
proper
able
burial.
to spend the money that maybe they've invested in the insurance policy, what have you, right?
Yeah.
And so what have you found to be the best way for people to go about starting their policy?
Honestly, Dene, the biggest thing is just getting out your own way, right? Just get out your own way. Like, first, stop the narrative in your head that you have time. Like, number one, you will never be, we collectively will never be as young and as healthy as we are in this very moment.
Yeah.
No one will be as healthy as you are now, right? So, like, with everything that is going on, don't take it for granted, right? Like, whatever age you're at, if you're 25 years young or 25 years old, that's a perfect time to get started. If you are at 55 years old, that's a perfect time to get started. Just get started. And so that is my biggest thing, is just get started, have the conversation, right? And reach out to somebody that you know and you trust, okay? My biggest thing that I do ask every single person, and is no shade against any of my other professionals in any other portion of my industry. However, when you're talking about health insurance, you reach out to a health insurance company like Aetna, United Healthcare, other things like that, right? So when we're talking about life insurance, you should be reaching out to life insurance agents, right? So we're not talking about people who work for a property and casualty company like Allstate, right? Their bread and butter, how that insurance company started, and no shade against them. Please don't come after my license or anything. But what I'm saying is those companies started because they were trying to protect buildings, structures, cars, property, not human lives. When Mutual of Omaha was started, when Penn Mutual was started, when Transamerica was started, it's about protecting human capital. Human capital meaning human lives. So I really want us to be mindful about those type of things and making sure that we really do understand that the type of policies that we really do have. And all you have to do is just reach out and have a conversation, right? It's just a conversation. So like for myself, when I get people on the phone, all I do is ask you is like, what are you looking for? What made you call me? And then after that, we schedule an appointment because number one, I want to get a feel for that person, Dene, just like I did you. I want to first see, you know, the integrity. Do we gel? Do it make sense what you're looking for? And then we'll set up a time where I can dig in a little bit deeper for you. And it's just reaching out, just have a conversation. Stop being scared. And if you don't have coverage outside of your job, you have to reach out to a life insurance agent because guess what, guys? Just like you don't own your health insurance at, let's say, AT&T or Sprint or whatever, soon as you leave that job or they fire you,
it's gone.
You no longer have that life insurance policy either. And I'm not laughing at that. I'm just saying that it took me a long time to realize that as well.
Right. And I think that's like one of those things that I tell people all the time, like my clients and people who I encounter, right? It's great to have it through your job because through your job, it's 50 cents, right? It's $2 through your job. And that's great. You can get a lot of money for those $2, right? You can get $100,000 policy for those $2 through your employer. But what if they lay you off tomorrow?
Yes.
And on your way home from the layoff, something happens to you or whatever it may be, right? A couple days later, and you have not been able to put in place a new policy, then what
secure something for your family.
You know what I'm saying? And all of that is kind of just gone because you were one trying to be on the lower end of things, or you just felt like, okay, it came through my job, at least I've got it, what have you. But it's very important to have that extra level of protection outside of your employer. And I think that's very, very, very important. I know I've sent you some people, some clients of mine and other individuals who maybe have said, like, I can't afford life insurance. I don't have the money to do it. I don't even have the time to talk to her. Like, how often would you say you hear someone say, I can't afford the life insurance?
Every day. Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
So that's what I tell people, like
someone. You know, and in Metro Atlanta, we're in Metro Atlanta to bury someone because I went through the process. It was over $15,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot for anybody's family to be able to come up with, especially if you're not in the upper middle class or higher, right? Even then, middle class, whether it's upper or right in the middle, has a lot of debt.
Yes.
Because we're in America, right? And
thank you.
If Chasity, you want to turn your computer up maybe so they can hear me better on Instagram? Because it echoes when I
Okay.
So
can we hear it now on Instagram?
Hopefully so. I know it's what Black Love Matters to you. Says they can't hear me really well. I hope you
I
can
just
hear
turned
me
up my
better.
computer, so it should fix it.
Okay. So I know that, like, you know, in those kind of situations, right, and you're having to put out so much money, and middle class individuals already have an issue of debt, credit card debt and loans and all of those things, right? Then that's going to create a scenario where you're putting your family in even more debt.
Yes.
Because either one, you wanted to spend $2 on the policy at your job, or you thought that private insurance was going to be too much. What is the cheapest amount of insurance you've ever given a policy for?
That is an amazing question, Dené, and thank you so much for just acknowledging that. Affordability is a big concern for most people, right? And that's why I really do thrive in my niche market, and that's people that really do make less than $75,000 a year. And that's because I hear it every single day that, oh, I can't afford it. Oh, I can't afford it. I have something through my bank. And I'm like, whatever you think you have through your bank does not really exist. But I'll get back to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as life insurance is concerned, we can get a policy all the way down to $5. Like, number one, I want us to start out and understand that we are in very prevalent times right now, dealing with COVID. Okay. Whether you are vaccinated, unvaccinated, or whatever, that is your prerogative. As a licensed professional, what I am most concerned about is our end game. How are we coming out of this? Okay. I'm very, very, very concerned. I'm not about the politics of it or anything else like that. I am truly about the human capital. Okay. So my biggest concern is, if you do not have a life insurance policy now, whether you get vaccinated or unvaccinated, we don't know what next year may hold. Even if you've been vaccinated, we don't know that your liver may not shut down. We don't know that those of us who had COVID or whatever the case may be, there could be different strands or different things in our body that still linger. And next year we start having liver problems. We end up on dialysis.
Right. It's
We
so
end up
new.
with
We have
diabetes.
no clue.
You don't know.
Right.
So based on that alone, what I'm saying to everyone is, you need to make sure that you have a life insurance policy, because we don't know. Dr. Fauci, nobody can speak to this. They're not licensed professionals. Nobody can speak to these things. I'm a licensed credentialed professional, so I can speak to it because I'm very concerned about it. So I want to say also that for those of us who have children, as early as 14 days old, you're able to get a child a policy. Okay. That's very, very, very important, especially if you decided to get vaccinated while you were pregnant or whatever the case may be. It is still good to get your child insurance, because we don't know that in a few years we find out about autism. We find out about type 1 diabetes. These things are uninsurable, guys. Like, you can't just, oh, little man now is, moving or speaking a little funny or whatever. Oh, I should get life insurance. It's too late.
Right.
It's too late. So we can always insure a child or anyone as, there's children policies as low as $4 a month, guys. If you tell me, hey, Chasity, listen, times are tough right now. I don't know if my job is going to be there for tomorrow. Listen, that's what everyone is dealing with in this pandemic. I understand that. I am the type of agent that will say to you, and I've said it to you, Dené, like, if you came outside tomorrow or in the morning and 2 of your tires are down on your car, can this still drive? And Mutual of Omaha or Transamerica get paid, right? Because I'll make it real for you.
Yeah.
I'll say, if your refrigerator break, can you still pay this policy? Because if you can't, we are reducing it down. I'm gonna be your friend with you for the rest of your life. So we always can go back to it a year from now, 2 years from now. I'm going to follow up with you. We can always increase as your income increase, but the most important thing is locking in your age and health while you actually have it, and that's only today.
And as it relates, like, to children in particular, right? I think some people think, this is my child, right? I don't ever want to envision my child no longer being with me, right? But there's a certain level where it's not just about that. So can you talk about the abilities that someone may have when it comes to a child's policy or even their own policy that benefits their children later on in life, that they could be able to use that money for other purposes?
I love that question, Dené. I love that question. Thank you so much for asking that question. I love that. So I actually just talked to a grandmother a few weeks ago, and we were talking about her grandkids. And she and I actually went to church together 1,000 years ago together when I lived in Cleveland. But I gave her the example because she was having a hard time wrapping her mind around covering her grandchild, right? But I gave her the example of when we were going to church together. There was a pastor at the time that we used to go to their church, and they threw their daughter an elaborate wedding, beautiful, beautiful ceremony. And the one thing that I remember is that they said that they had used their life insurance. They pulled money from their daughter's life insurance policy to help fund the wedding, that it was not coming from the church proceeds. And they were very clear about that. I didn't understand it at the time because I was like 20-some years old. But now, as a licensed professional, now I understand what they were saying. So one of the biggest things is that with a children's policy, the earlier you get a child a policy, the more time it has to build cash value in it, right? And so, unlike investments and other things like that, where you actually have to pay taxes on it to take money out of it, with a,
Let's say Uncle Sam.
I know you got to pay Uncle Sam, child. So, but with the life insurance policy, you're actually able to take a loan on the money that you actually put in there. So if you get your child a policy, get little Anthony a policy when he's 14 days old, 2 years old, 4 years old, and by the time he's 16, you have enough cash value in there to pull some money out and help put a down payment or not pay his car off, his first car. So instead of us scrambling and forcing these kids to work and, getting, financing cars and taking on more debt, let's put ourselves in a position, like not thinking about our kids dying. Like, gosh, I don't envision my child dying either, right? However, she do have things in place in the event, heaven forbid, something happen, or if it work out the way I want it to work out, after she's out of college and she decide that she want to get married to some nice person, then she'll have some money she can pull from, or she can do whatever she want to do with it, or she can take money out and invest it. So there's many different ways that you can do it.
And I think, for me anyways, I was fortunate. I don't think my mom used life insurance. They just used the money, right? I still took out student loans, tons and tons of student loans, right? But I did not have to, I don't feel that I ever necessarily had to worry about like life expenses. Am I going to be able to eat while I'm there? Is my rent going to be paid? Am I going to have a car? Like my mom and my family provided all of those things for me, right? I was fortunate in order to be able to do that. And we were not rich. I'm not, that's not the case, right? But like they made sure that the dreams that I had, that the drive that I had, all of those things were still going to happen. And they made sure that they did things in order to make that happen. But not everybody can do that, right? And I'm sure they took out a lot of debt to make it happen. I'm sure that they sacrificed a lot of things to make it happen. But if there was some other thing in place, like a life insurance policy or some other thing, then it may not have necessarily been that way, right? They still would have been able to make sure I had the things that I needed and wanted, but they would have been able to take from the investment that they had put in over the course of some years. And so one of the things that we kind of run into in the family law spectrum anyways is that when you're in a child support case or divorce or anything that involves children, right, sometimes a judge will order that the non-custodial parent obtain a life insurance policy for the benefit of the child, right? So it's your life, but the child is listed as the beneficiary, or the custodial parent is listed as the person who can oversee that child's money should something happen to you. And I generally like that provision because it kind of forces people to act in a way that's going to make sure that their kids have something that they can tangibly use should something happen at a time that we don't expect it to necessarily happen. Because one thing's for sure, right, is that no matter what happens in life, no matter how crappy yesterday was, no matter how great today is, or whatever, there is one day that we will no longer be here.
There's only one way to get off the planet. Only one.
And so why not, if you prepare for vacations and you save money for that, and you save money for weddings, and you save money for houses, and you do all these things, why not make sure that you are putting money into something that is going to be more long lasting than any of those things? And that's going to protect those people who are around you, who you love and care about today, right? And who are going to be in mourning and can't even imagine dealing with all the crap that it takes to do all of that. Like, why not invest in that? Why not make those moves. And I think Chasity is a perfect person to make sure that that happens in your life, that you do that and get those things set up. What can you kind of explain to people who are viewing, and if y'all have any questions, feel free to
Yeah.
put them in the chat box on Instagram or on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Feel free to put in the chat. I know somebody put that the cost for 5 kids for them is extremely inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
But can you kind of just like give everybody a brief overview of what it looks like to be able to pull money out of a policy? Like, does their policy close at that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Does it remain open? Do they have to take it all out? What does that look like?
So that's a great point. So one of the things I want to go back just a little bit that you talked about and that I appreciate that you guys are doing in family law that a lot of people may not really appreciate, because unfortunately I tried to have this high level conversation with my daughter's father at one point of sanity, but that was, if anybody know that, that just didn't happen. But it's about protecting the child, right? It's about protecting the child. That is why, which I'm shocked that the courts are even mandating it, because typically the courts aren't always in favor of doing what's best for protecting legacies. And that's just my opinion. But nevertheless, I'm very pleased that you guys are doing that, because seriously, we have to look at it as I'm, Kimura's mother, and then Kimura also has, a father or whatever the case may be, right? So should something happen to either one of her parents, then Kimura, the child, she's the one who is left with nothing. It's not about me gaining financial stability. It's not about, so if something happened to me, my mother gaining financial stability or anything else like that, right? It's about making sure that that child is able to move on to whatever you plan for that child. So even like for myself, I have several policies in place, one of which is a larger term policy. It only lasts for like 20 years, Dene. And that's just to give me enough time, or give my child in life enough time, that should something happen to me before my daughter finishes college and do what she decides to do with her life, and she's not stable on her own, should she die, I die before then, there'll be a large lump sum of money that'll go to, let's say, my mom, who will be able to take care of my daughter until my daughter is on her feet and she graduates from high school, college, and the rest of it, right? So it's about protecting our legacies. It's about protecting our families. Because if I didn't have that in place, and say something happened right now, I live in Atlanta. Heck, it's a crazy car accident every freaking 30 minutes here. Okay. Tragic car accidents. So if something happened to me and I died, like I was in a car accident 3 years ago, I was T-boned. I could have died then. And something happened to me, then that is a financial burden that I've now placed on my family,
Right.
not only to A, bury me, but B, who's going to provide for my daughter? Now we got to get my daughter flown back to Ohio, because that's where I'm from. And now they have to figure out a way to incorporate Kimura into their life. My daughter's going to be stressed out about me. These are all the things that we forget
Right.
to think about. My
Right.
daughter's going to need counseling. She going to need this. She going to need that. We have to think about these things. As tragic as it sounds, like, if we just plan for it, then guess what? 9 times out of 10, we ain't got to deal with it for real. No, we don't. It's when we don't plan for it, is when stuff hit the roof.
Right.
It's when it's really
Agreed.
a catastrophe. That's really when a catastrophe happens. So I think that that's a great thing that the courts are mandating those type of things, because it really will help protect people moving forward. It's not about the courts getting money. It's not about anything other than that child. So I'm super grateful that the guardian ad litem and people in the courts, the attorneys, are really making sure that this is happening. Now, circling to your actual question that you were asking in regards to the child policy. So like if you borrow money from your policy, let's say the policy is worth $50,000 and you have, $2,000 of cash value, you can borrow that money from your policy. And so let's say if you die before you finish paying premiums to put that money back into your policy, then instead of your family receiving 50,000, they'll receive 48,000. Now, you could say, oh, that's a ripoff. No, it's not. Because here's the thing, guys. Like, how else would your family be transferred $48,000 tax free
Right.
without the courts being involved, without the Uncle Sam getting involved, without
Right.
your bill collector getting involved? Everything else that you have will go through probate. Uncle
Yep.
Sam getting his bread, your bill collector getting their bread. Like, you have
Yes.
to understand the mindset of this. This is
And the length of time that it
Mhm.
takes to even do something like going through a probate action and things of that nature. It can take a lengthy amount of time, and it can cost you a lot if you're using an attorney, and it can
Mhm.
cost you a lot if you're not, because you don't know what you're doing. Right. So it's
Facts.
much better to just kind of have that peace of mind.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Excuse me, Dene. I be wanting to drink all my drinks in the morning. So yeah, I think that's really the biggest thing there, guys, is
Mhm.
just making sure that you do have something in place. Let's stop. Let's lose the negative connotation around, something, you speaking death on my kid. Still have people that say that. I still have husbands that say, I just had a husband that just said this a
He
week
gonna
ago.
kill me. He didn't
Yeah,
kill me.
he's like, you set this up so my wife can be with somebody else. And listen, whether a man is 60 years old or a man 20 years old, they all still say the same thing. And the young lady, she was frustrated with her husband, and I was like, no, it's okay, because every husband says this. I said, but sir, like, honestly, if you do your research, if you look up any statistical data on women who remarry, it is typically, if you leave your woman, if you leave your wife and your children with a substantial amount of income, right? Enough to pay off the house and bury you, or
I'm
just
not
pay
gonna
the
really
mortgage.
have the need other than companionship. Maybe.
She took it out my mouth. Most women, it'll be like, most women will end up just raising our children, raising your kids for you. And then once they're off, by then maybe we looking around to do something. But other than that, women don't typically just jump back up and remarry. Like, we just focus on our families, and that is what you're really protecting. So for men who say that, it's just like, no, this is your hedge to make sure that your kids don't grow up calling somebody else dad. That's
Yeah.
how you keep that man out of from your household. That's how you do it. You make sure that your family is protected.
And if you
So,
love them, right, which I'm sure you do, whether you're the male or the female, if you
mhm,
love the people who are around you, you're going to want to make sure that you do the things that protect them for when you're no longer here, right?
yeah.
It's not just about protection while you're living on this earth and providing financially for your kids or for yourself while you're here.
Mhm,
You need to make sure that you are able to do that when you leave. And it's not about making sure that they are like wealthy,
mm-mm,
right? It's
no,
not about making sure your wife, your husband, your kids are wealthy when you leave.
right.
It's about making sure that they can cover your expenses,
Mhm.
first of all, without having, like you said, those other creditors coming after it, because they get first dibs.
And
Okay.
that's reality, y'all.
Reality, they get first dibs of anything in your bank account, anything in your whatever, right? But
Mhm.
that life insurance policy is the beneficiaries.
It goes straight to the family. So
Period.
if you mark Linda,
Mm-hmm.
that is who that check is going to. It's not, the check is not going to be waved in the air like, Chastity's dead, so who
Yeah.
are we going to get this to? It's like, no, that money is already earmarked. That check will go out to that person,
Yeah.
and that's who it's mailed out to,
Yeah.
period. And so then
And
it's
I
that
think that's
person who handles everything else.
right. And that's very important to make sure that you're, doing that. What about the person who's thinking, right now, I may want my sister to be my beneficiary,
Mhm.
right? But then, my Lord, we may fall out
Yeah.
or something may happen to my sister, and I don't want to go through the process. Or is there even a process to change that person? Or what if something happens to us and we're in a car accident at the same time, and we're both gone for some reason, right? Then my kids or my family, whomever it is, loses out in this totality, right? All my money is gone.
Mhm.
What do you say to that person?
That is a great question, Danae. And one of the biggest things is what I tell people is your beneficiary is not irrevocable, which means that you can change that, right? You can change your beneficiary at any time. I really encourage people, and I put this out on a live maybe 2 weeks ago. Like, if you are freshly remarried or anything else like that, make sure your your beneficiaries have changed. Whether it's on your health insurance, your life insurance, whether it's on your investments, all those different things. Okay, because I see it again and again and again that when somebody get remarried, they don't say, "Oh, take my ex off." Like, no, the insurance companies, they don't care. They're not about to process that paperwork. And if it says that, Dene, you're still with Richard, that's who getting the money. It's Richard. So just make that phone call. Just make the phone call. Like, if I'm your agent, I'll just give you the number to call, or we can call together. And if I'm your agent, if I always make more than one beneficiary, there's always two. So you have a main beneficiary, which is your sister, and then I'm gonna kill you and your sister in the conversation while we're talking anyway. And then I'm gonna force you to have a backup plan. Dene laughing because she knows the truth. Because I kill everybody in every conversation. Because I need you to understand how
contingencies.
Yeah.
You've got to prepare for contingencies and what may change and all of that kind of stuff. That's important to do also, right? Like, just as you do in anything. Yeah,
things happen. Because if you trust that person with your money, that means you'll most likely travel with that person. That means, right, like, you'll be with that person in a greater capacity. So that means I need to show you that anything can happen. You understand? So, we always have to think like that. And since we're talking about that, Dene, I know you may have another question. I wanted to add one thing because I know we're running down to the
right now. Yep.
So this is something that I always tell every last person who is a client of mine, and whether you're a client of mine or not, it is very important that when your loved one passed, family, to reach out to your life insurance agent. Okay, reach out to your life insurance agent first. Please, please, please do not reach out to the funeral home first. Okay, I'm putting out more and more content in funerals about that, and I've had clients even come and say something to me about it afterwards, because what they end up doing is, like, you have to understand, funeral home directors are trained salesmen. Like, y'all think we the salesmen.
They want you to have the programs and the casket that's 10,000, and they want you to have the sprint, the 4 or 5 sprinters when you only need maybe 1 or 2, and they want you to have all the things.
Doves, everything. Those homing pigeons. Do you understand that those pigeons that y'all release into the air, they are trained to go back to a cage, and we resell those jokers at $75 a pop every single time. So I understand that it's a very emotional time. Heaven forbid the day that I have to look at my mom passing away or whatever. It's a very emotional time, but reach out to somebody who's not as emotionally invested. So, like your insurance agent, I'm not going to be emotionally invested
or financially invested.
Exactly. And so I can help walk you through it and tell you what to say, and tell you not to tell them that, oh, you have a $50,000 life insurance policy or $100,000. Because
they just need to know what you want and why you want it. And I just want the basics, or maybe you don't. Maybe you do want something extra. When my grandmother passed away in 2019, that was a very, very difficult time for literally all of us. And we added some extra things because she was extra to us. We didn't add it because he said it or because he wanted it. We added it because we wanted it, and we wanted certain things. But also, I'm the type of person where I'm not really gonna let somebody tell me what I want. I know what I want. I've already thought about what I want, and I'm gonna tell you that way. But not everybody is built that way, right? Like, not everybody.
That's because you're an attorney, though.
You're in mourning, right? Exactly. I have a different level of thought process and understanding whether I'm in mourning or not. But not everybody is capable of doing that. So I like to say to reach out to the agent first, because you can give us the tips on what to say and what not to say, what to disclose and what not to disclose.
Exactly. Yeah.
And kind of going back to one of your points is that make sure that even if you're talking about like changing your beneficiaries or having that secondary beneficiary and all of that, make sure you have a will in place as well.
Yes.
And a lot of us attorneys do not have them. I'm just going to be honest, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And but make sure that that's something that you do have, whether it's just something very plain and simple. And having that life insurance policy, some people say, like, I don't have anything in order to be able to have a will, but you do. Things like life insurance policies or whatever can be those kind of contingency levels in your will,
Mm-hmm.
that helps protect you in another kind of way, right? Because maybe you want the money from your life insurance policy
Mm-hmm.
to be used for X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And if you want it to be used for X, Y, and Z, it needs to be in another document that says, Sarah or my contingency, Anthony,
Yes.
use my money in X, Y, and Z way. I want you to make sure that you do this for my kids, or I want you to pay off that or this.
Yes.
Because if not, quite honestly, they can do whatever they want to do with it. And if you have children, you want to make sure that you're not just protecting them in that way by having the policy. You want to protect them in the way where you have something else set up that tells that person what to do with what you've invested.
Yes,
That makes
absolutely. I definitely do agree.
yeah.
And even for my clients who are not able to afford or they feel like they don't have enough to get a will, I
Mhm.
still recommend writing things down and having a notary sign it or stamp it to make it, a legal document and make sure there's several people with that document.
Yeah.
So in the event
Agreed.
that Keisha died, in the event that Anthony died, and they
Mhm.
both have that document, at least Keith knows that that document exists.
Yeah.
And if someone else is doing something with the money other than what is written down,
Mhm.
at least with that notary, there is something that you can petition the court with
Yep.
that can be recognized other than grandma just writing something down on a scratch piece of paper and you trying to take that off in there. But at least if it's notarized and it has a date and a seal with the
Yep.
state of Georgia or the state of Ohio or whatever state on there, then it has to be actually looked at that point.
Agreed. And just to kind of back up, somebody brought up in the comments on Facebook that they had a divorce and had to remember to update their name change. Make divorce too. Make sure that you're updating your beneficiaries after a divorce. Any life changing
Events.
thing that
Yeah.
occurs, and your agent should be checking in with you every so often, every
Anyway,
couple years, every
that's right.
couple months,
That's right.
whatever, right? Checking
Mhm.
up to make sure that things are still going well. Do you need any changes, like Chastity mentioned earlier? Do we need to increase? Do we need to
Yes.
decrease? What does that look
Right.
like? And a portion of that conversation should be, do you need to change your beneficiaries? And if you currently have an agent and they're not doing that, you definitely want to reach out to Chastity, because Chastity will do that.
Mhm.
So we are up on our time. Is there any final thoughts that you may have, Chastity, that you kind of want to throw out there before you tell everybody how to reach you?
This is just a great conversation, Dene. I just think we're living in a very scary time during this pandemic. But don't let this scare you guys into inaction. This should be a thing that moves you to action. And just making a phone call to an agent and just having a conversation. That's all it is a conversation. No one can force you into anything. No one can make you do anything you don't want to do, right? But just as quick as we love buying all the gadgets, all the Jordans, all these other things, right? We want to make sure that the people that we say that we love the most, we are protecting.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are many different people out here that will be able to protect you. There's so many different types of people out here that can help you. So whether it's a woman that you want as an insurance agent, a man, a young person, an older person, I mean, everyone is available, guys. Don't use that as a reason not to get the help that you need. Just ask the question. And if you say you have something through your bank, that is a lie. That is a bold-faced lie. Don't ever tell an agent that, okay? Because you don't have anything through your bank. What you have through your bank is called an accidental death and dismemberment policy. That means that policy only pays out if you are in a car accident, a plane accident, train accident. That's it. An accident is not, ooh, ooh, poof. No, that's not an accident. That's just you being goofy. That is not an accident.
Yeah.
Okay. So I need you guys to understand that if you have something through your job, that's great. Keep it. But you still need something outside of your job because guess what? None of us stay at our jobs forever. Okay. At the point that you retire, you don't want to wait until you're 65 years old to ask for a policy. Let's get it right. We're young, we're healthy before we're taking a bunch of meds and dealing with author and all of that.
Yeah. And if you're older, you still need to do it, right? You might have to go through some extra layers or extra steps in order to be able to get it. Or it might cost you a little bit more, but you still need to do it. So
yeah, no, and I still make sure you're taken
yeah.
care of. I mean, I have clients who have, whether it's congestive heart failure, I have people who have HIV. I know people I have clients who had cancer, who've been in remission. Some people haven't been in remission.
Yeah.
I mean, there's many, many, many ways that we're actually able to get people taken care of.
Awesome. So tell people, somebody made a comment. Let's see.
Yeah, she said she's glad she joined.
Glad she joined. Awesome.
Okay, good. We're glad you're here too.
And so tell people, Chasity, how they can reach you. How do they reach out to you if they're thinking, I'm not quite sure yet, but I think I want to talk to somebody about it, or they're thinking, you know what, I'm ready. I was willing to pay Planet Fitness $10 a month as my New Year's resolution. And I know I can probably get a policy for that same amount, and I'm ready.
Yes.
How does that person reach you?
You can reach me many different ways, guys. If you would like to reach out to me via social media, definitely feel free to do that. My platform names are all the same. The way it looks on the screen, Chasity A. Wells. You can reach out to me Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can direct message me there. You can go to my website, chastityawells.com, fill out a form to actually have me reach back out to you. I do call every person back. In regards to that, if you need a way to be able to directly contact me as well, once you go to my website, the rest of it, you'll see my number, my different contact modiums on there as well, my email address, everything is on there for you guys. Let's just be serious in 2022. I mean, we are blessed to be alive during this pandemic. It is not something to snooze at. It's not about a political debate on who does this or who does that. Like, honest to God, this is really about our lives and us protecting our lives. If now more than ever, you haven't decided to protect your lives, God is putting it before you now. Like, we really have to do it. It's not about a religious thing. It's not about anything. It's about us being real serious, because it's all put in front of us at this point. We don't have a time to play anymore. So just reach out to me. We can have a real quick conversation, and then I can set up an appointment with you, because if you call me, I'll just take your call, but we'll have to actually set up an appointment time so I really can go through all your different things and concerns that you do have. But I'll make sure that you guys are protected.
Awesome. Well, again, Chasity, I want to thank you for joining us today on this episode of Conversations with Dené. As it relates to our Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube family. Bye, Chasity. See you later.
Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing. Thank you.
I'm glad to have had you. All right, guys. So again, I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Conversations with Dené, your family law and wellness needs. And I again want to thank Chasity for joining us today and giving us a wealth of knowledge about life insurance, the ups, the downs, the benefits. There are no cons. Okay. No matter what you think, there are no cons to making sure that you have a life insurance policy and that you, as well as your family, are protected, that you can use it in the future for your children, for their college expenses, trade school expenses, living expenses, for your own expenses. Should something happen to you that requires that you can no longer work for any period of time, that you have that ability to use that platform. And I want to make sure that y'all follow Chasity. Like she said, chastityawells.com. It's on the screen on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Check her out, contact her, just have the conversation. It is time for people to have the conversation about life insurance, no matter how healthy you are, no matter how old you are, how young you are. It is time to have the conversation. I want to make sure that you all are following us on social media, the Dunn Matthews Law Firm. Our information is up now. On Instagram, it's at D Matthews Firm. On YouTube, just find the Dunn Matthews Law Firm. And on Facebook, it's at Dunn Matthews Firm. Follow us, like us, subscribe, share to your family, your friends. This episode, any other episodes, and anything that we are doing, we are on a mission to make sure that we are serving our community and providing any information that is relevant to you all. And so if you have anything that you want to hear us talk about, let's see, Instagram can't hear me. So if there's anything that you want to hear us talk about or dive into this year on Conversations with Dené, make sure that you send us a message and let us know that. All right, have a good one.